Alright, so we're holding Siman Melicha. We're going to do some short Seifim Gimel Dalad and Hey. Just a quick review of some of the Nekudas and Seif Beis, where we left off talking about fish being salted with meat. You can have a situation where the two are being salted together. You can have a situation where one is salted and not the other. And this will make a little bit of a difference, especially when we're dealing with treif meat. See, as opposed to fish, as opposed to even meat or chicken, simply because the dan that's coming out is already a midrabanan, and there will be nafkaminas whenever there's a suffix. If the issue involved is the derabanan, then the suffix derabanan lekula. The issue involved is the deraisa, then the suffix deraisa is the chumrah. So it's important to know what we are dealing with. Before getting into the details, I did a little bit of research about salting fish, since it came up last time, as to why would somebody salt fish. Now, salting fish, obviously one perhaps wants to salt it. He wants the salt to be absorbed into the fish because he wants to have a tasty fish. And the example that I think I gave, is cod. Cod is a very dry fish. Customarily, traditionally, it is salted, heavily salted. And heavily salted because you do want the salt after a while to penetrate. So it definitely adds flavor. But apparently, the main reason why people salted fish ever since the olden days, Roman times, for preservation. That's exactly it. And they have found old, not old fish, but they have found old ruins, Roman ruins, of where it was obvious that in the vats or in the particular formation in the rock, it was used as a place to salt fish. It was a big commerce. It was a big, how should we say, an activity which was done quite frequently in order to preserve the fish. And it's a whole process. I was going to say a whole science, but it's not such a big science. It's a whole process on how to salt fish, how to prepare it properly. And once you do it right, which includes salting and airing it or drying it in the air, and later packaging it if you're going to be sending it off somewhere, what that does is preserve it for a long, long time. And the reason it's possible to preserve it is because salt, besides giving flavor, has the ability to kill off all the bacteria that may attack the meat or fish or whatever, and eventually, of course, cause the spoilage and the smell and all that. By removing any oxygen, by removing what the bacteria needs to feed on, and by not allowing it too much moisture to accumulate, that's why they air it and dry it out, you can pretty much preserve fish and almost anything for a very long time. Yeah. What happens in Yam HaMelech? Nothing can live in there. Yeah, sure. Exactly. This is apparently something that was done quite a bit. So this is a very interesting idea, because we're going to be talking about next what happens if you have not kosher stuff being salted together, but treifa stuff being salted together. Treifa fish with kosher fish. Then what do you do? Can you have it or not? So there's a whole Siman, or I should say a whole area in Halacha, Pei Gimel, that deals with Hilchos Dogim. You're welcome to look at it if you want to learn a little bit about fish. That Siman deals with how to identify kosher fish from non-kosher fish, plus mixtures. What do you do with mixtures? What do you do with the insides, with the eggs, or fish that has been salted together? So we'll talk a little bit about that next. But it's important to know how all of this works. When you get into the process of salting, apparently you learn what it does. Brine accumulates, which is what we're talking about, sear, and how that affects the fish, and how strong it is. Apparently it's quite strong. And once fish was very, very salty, if you want to eat it and it's very salty, of course you don't want to eat very salty fish, you would have to rinse it several times until you got the salt out. So in Seif Beis, when we spoke about kosher fish and kosher chicken or kosher meat, that we said that it would be a problem if the fish or the meat or the fish was being salted together with the fish, especially if the of was the maliach and the dag was the tofel. In other words, what we were salting was the chicken, and the blood was coming out, and the dog was tafel. But, or if they too were salted, of course. Avalin dag maliach, we said that if the fish was the one that was salty by itself, it just happens to be that the chicken was there and hadn't been salted yet. They were next to each other, or ze al gavze, or one on top of the other. In this case, av dagim mutarim belo klipa, even the fish would be mutar without even a klipa. Okay, so the Ramah, Shach, they bring down that perhaps a klipa would be necessary, but that the point is, why is this any more lenient? If the fish are the ones that are salty, and the chicken, where the blood would be coming out of, is not salty, it wouldn't be such a big deal. So the Taz brought down one hesber, and apparently it turns out to be the second. He prefers the second hesber of the Rashba, that the reason why we're not so concerned if the fish is the salty one is because salty fish do not have enough koach to be maflit dam, to take out blood from a chicken. It will warm up the chicken, but not enough to take out the blood. It's not like the chicken is being salted. The fish is salted, they're touching, so what? So it's not strong enough. The Pri Megadim prefers the first hesber in the Rashba, that he says that yes, the salty fish can take out a little bit of the blood, but it's so little. So little is going to come out that it's not going to be an issue. In other words, it cannot be mavliya, that little bit that came out, into the fish. So either way, whichever hesber of the Rashba you prefer, they both don't seem to be that much of a concern. The Shach, however, over here on Sif Beis had a question on the Mechaber from Sif Gimel, which we're going to look at now. In the Sif Gimel, there appears to be a second opinion when something tomeh or something treif is actually touching something kosher. And there, the one that's kosher is the one that's salty. The one that's kosher is salty, and the treifa is not salty. Still, over there, the Mechaber brings down that some would aser when they touch. Why over here he doesn't bring the Yeshayim? Good question. In other words, what would be the difference between Sif Beis and Sif Gimel Legabe? That second opinion that holds that even if the kosher, in other words, in this case, if the fish is the one that's salty, we said it's not a problem. But in that case, you said if one of them is salty, it would still be, even if the kosher one is the salty, there's an opinion that would say that it would be a problem. And he gives two tirutzim. Sif Gimel later on is talking about Basar Tomeh, Basar Treif. And here we're talking about dam of an off. It's a completely different idea altogether. Or that in Sif Beis we're talking about the so little is coming out, like this other hesber in the Rashba, that it's definitely not as much of an issue as it is over there. So therefore, here the Mechaber apparently did not see a need to mention the Yeshayim. Over there, it's a much more serious issue when we consider treif meat versus dam, and here it's bichlal, according to the Rashba, not a big issue either, because if the fish is the one that's being salted, it's not going to accomplish too much. All right, then we went on to the Ramah, that if the fish were on top of the chicken, even if they're all salted, it would be okay, because Ramah says we don't hold that dam is mefapea melemato lemala. The dam is not going to travel from down to up. It's now worse than a chaticha that fell into tzir. He says that the portion that's in the tzir may be an issue, but not the portion that's above the tzir, just because it's touching it. But then the Ramah added the big chiddush. And he said that the same is true. Im lo iniach hadagim etzel haofot ela lachar sheshahu haofot b'molchan shiur melicha. If you didn't put the fish next to the chicken, only after the chicken were already salted for the shiur melicha. Yeah, this is not the chiddush. The chiddush is another point. But this is also important to know that once the chicken already had enough time to emit its blood, afadagim utarim, even though they're both salted, because the blood is gone. Fine. Now, Hode amrinan, the imhadag tofel, that which we said in this halacha, that if the dag is the one that's tofel and the offers are meluchim, the offers are salty, that they're asurim, that's davka shadag palat kvar damo, the salt already had enough of a chance to take out all its blood and juices, and it was hudach, avad imadayin lo palat damo, if we're still talking about a fresh fish just caught, it still has all its juices and blood inside, and it's bolea min ha'ofot, no problem. The gav, the yiflot, once you take that fish and you salt it, and it will extract its own blood, it will also extract any blood it may have absorbed from the chicken. Remember that was the chiddush of the Ramah. The Ramah was saying that which we learned, that the fish are going to absorb the blood, and it's going to be an issue. Why is it going to be an issue? Because fish, you can't say I did the Torah as long as meat and chicken. They give out their juices, they give out their whatever it is, and that's it. They're going to be absorbing for who knows how long, half an hour or more, blood. And Rafu Karmayu, we said the skin is very soft, the flesh is soft, so it absorbs it. It just doesn't flow off, and there's no more tzir left in the fish. So the Ramah said, but you have to keep in mind the following: that that's only fish that was already salted or salted at the same time. But if somehow the fish absorbed blood, but it wasn't salted yet, just absorbed, and let's assume even that there's no scales. Like we learned before, the scales are a big advantage. Either that they absorb the blood, or that at least when they're being salted, they slow down the process of the tzir, like the Taz explains. And maybe they can catch up with all the blood. But anyway, let's just assume the fish, you just caught some fish, it doesn't have scales, but you never salted it yet. It absorbed all this blood. So the Ramah is saying, if you did not salt the fish yet, don't worry about the blood that it absorbed. Later on, when you do salt the fish, it's going to take out all that juice inside, all the moisture, and it will do it. According to the report I read, that's what the salt does. It does very well. It actually takes out everything. It dries the fish inside so well that that's how it is able to preserve it. Salting is a preservation because, I guess, because it dries it so much that there's no moisture left in there, and no bacteria can live there. As a result of that, there's no rotting. It doesn't decompose. You can salt a mummy too. A body, yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
The fish we're talking about the fish got salted.
Right.
Now, you want to tell me that why wouldn't the salt take out whatever blood is absorbed it comes in contact with?
One more time? Yeah, you're talking about when everything is being salted at the same time?
Fish absorbs blood and it doesn't have.
Yeah.
Why would it matter?
No, we said that if
it has blood,
if it has been salted already, the fish, right? Or if it's being salted, then we're concerned about the timing, that by the time that the fish is finished taking out all its moisture, it's going to then absorb blood. And now I understand your question too. So why don't we say that salt on the fish should take out the blood later on? Okay? So that not everybody agrees with, because the blood, misrach sorech, into the fish, misrach sorech means it attaches itself to the fish a lot more than to another piece of chicken. This is not its natural ingredient, right? Fish doesn't have blood. The way it works is that when or while it's busy taking out its own, it will also be able to, that's what the Ramah says, it will also be able to extract blood that may have been absorbed as well. Not everybody agrees with the Ramah. That's a big chiddush, to say that melicha helps to take out blood from a fish. Go ahead, put some salt in it, it will take out the blood. It helps to dry the fish, it helps to completely take out any moisture in the fish, but not necessarily blood. The blood is misrach sorech, it somehow attaches itself so much to the fish that it won't be able to take it out. Not everybody agrees therefore with the Ramah. But the Ramah is saying, yes, I understand that, but when you have the additional advantage that the fish will be emitting or exuding its own juices, it has a momentum. Call it momentum. It's coming out. Oh, it's all coming out, so everything will come out. It pushes everything out. But if you don't have any juice left of your own, you can't just put salt on it and expect the blood to come out. Otherwise, you're right. Why should we ever worry about it? Just leave the salt there, just like salt and lechatchila, salt the chicken and meat lechatchila together. Mishrak, shorik, there won't be mishrik sharik really on the fish. It's going to come in, and it won't necessarily come out.
Some of it would call.
Not all of it, yeah, especially if it has something coming out, yeah. So that's why it's a big chiddush in the Ramon. Not everybody holds like him, and he says, just go ahead and salt the fish that has not been salted yet, of course, and then it will be okay. So not everybody agrees with it. The Marshal, for example, gives an explanation that dagim, the reason why it doesn't help is because what the dagim have is not blood, is a tzir, and you don't say this word that agav the yiflo tzir didei yiflo dam the off. You don't say when the tzir comes out of the fish, will take out the dam. The Pri Megadim says we don't hold like this Rashal, that it's only tzir, and he says we're machmir for other reasons, but not because that the tzir will not be able to take out the dam.
Didn't we have the blood of the fish? You should put some scales out. So people
Right.
So,
No, that's only because of Marisayin.
yes, but scales because of the
Because it looks like it. It looks like it, yeah.
The tzir looks like blood.
Yeah. Anyway, there's other explanations of why not everybody accepts
By the way, we don't say if he's going to the bride of the fish. We say if he's going to
the blood. It's called, we call it the blood. That's how it's called. So there are various explanations as to why not everybody agrees with the Ramah. The Taz just says Poshet that the dam, whatever dam is in the fish, is not that much, and by the time it finishes, there's still more coming out from the ophos, from the chicken, that it won't be sufficient to counteract any blood that's coming in. All right. Either way, halacha lemaisa. The Shach says behefsed meruba. You can definitely be soymech on the Ramah. Others also say that.
hasn't been salted yet.
If it hasn't been salted yet, right? Yeah. Yeah, but it doesn't appear from the mechaber, from the shach, and the Pri Chodesh, and anyone that melicha actually helps on a fish. Lechatchila now. It doesn't seem like anyone offers that suggestion. Go ahead and be molech the fish. In order to accomplish taking out the blood that was absorbed in the fish, that hasn't been. Nobody agrees with that. Nobody suggested that is a possibility. The question is what do we do by hefsed meru? But the shach says you can rely on the Ramah. But lechatchila, nobody makes that suggestion. But that helps.
Regardless of whether the fish is salted or not.
No, we're talking about when it was not salted. Only, yeah.
So the Ramah said.
Yeah.
So
The Ramah is the only one that says it.
right, but why should the others?
In other words, the question is, do we have any indication what they would hold, what the shach would, what the mechaber would hold? So the shach brings down here that, in the Pri Chodesh also, that we don't have any other besides the Ramah. There's no one that seems to suggest this.
So in other words, there's no Rashba, there's
Yeah.
no Rosh.
Right. Well, the Shach says that appears to be the Shulchan Aruch Svara too. That you wouldn't lo mehanya melicha. Melicha would not help in such a case.
There is no
Well, yeah, they do contest. They do say that. Yeah, only behefsed meruba. The Shach is saying, yeah.
So they hold it's a chumrah not to do it.
It's not just a chumrah.
If it doesn't work, then they shouldn't,
Well, obviously, yeah. This is svaras atzmoi. V'chem mashma be'oruch shem smak.
So they're unhappy.
Yeah, there could be. There are some who maybe would agree, but anyway, by halacha lemaisa, it doesn't appear that anybody agrees with this, except what the Shach said. That behefsed meruba, you could. Chochmas Sodom also says that you can rely on this. Remor behefsed meruba, by the way. Yeah. All right, so that was fish. So if you ever want to salt fish, salt the fish by itself. Sif Gimel. Sif Gimel, Dalad, and Hay are pretty straightforward, and they deal with Basar Shchuta and Basar Treifa. And this is actually a situation that may arise, and you could apply it to Dogim Ksherim and Dogim Tmeim too, in a sense, which I mentioned is an halacha brought down in Sim Pei Gimel. You go into a marketplace, and you see salted fish, and you have catfish next to salmon. Now what? They weren't cooked together, but they were salted together. Were they salted together, or they're just salted separately, but they're touching? Preserved, to preserve. Fish market, yeah. You don't really see it today. Salted fish it's still done. It's packaged, and it's in a package by itself. Yeah. Then you don't even know what they were salting when they were salting it. Were they salting it all together? It would need hashgacha, 100%, because of the halachas that we will learn now. What does it do when you salt them together? So if it's basar, it's a little bit much more serious. Basar sif gima basar shchuta shemolchu basar treifa. Now, some of these halacha may sound familiar to you from Basar v'Cholov and especially from Taaruvot, where we encounter this idea. So this is taken again from the Gemara in Chulin, Kuf Yud Beis Amud Beis to Kuf Yud Gimel, that you have a situation where you have the lashon there is tahar and tomeh. Here the lashon is shchuta and treifa, but it's the same idea. One is a clean animal, one is a non-clean animal, one is a basar shchuta, and one is a basar treifa. You know, you can have a kosher animal that's treif. Treif does not necessarily mean pig, right?
On the contrary.
On the contrary.
Exactly.
So it's a different. It's a different.
Yeah,
it's actually a treifa is actually a behemoth tahora. It has no tumah. Because the shechita was good, it's not a nevela. Nevela is metama, but a treifa does not have any tumah. So basar shchuta shemalchu in basar treifa. Now, why would this happen? Very simple. They forgot. They didn't stamp it. There was sem schlachthaus. It's kosher meat. It was a cow. But it turns out that the lungs, later on they figured out that, that lung was not kosher. Which animal does it belong to? You know, today they cross-reference everything supposedly well. That's what you really have to be organized. You have to do things right. You have to mark everything, which part belongs to which animal. That one, but unfortunately, at the same time, somewhere in the Shlachta, they were doing Melicha, and they just did everything together. So basar shchuta shemalchu and basar treifa. Or, Shatreifa melucho v'ksheot tefela. This same halacha would apply is if the treifa were salted and the kosher was not salted yet. It was just sitting next to it. So either the two were salted or the treifa is the one that's salted. Okay? And the two are touching each other. Also, kedei klipa. Well, the good news so far is, of course, there's a problem here, but it's only kedei klipa. Why? It's melicha. It's not bishul. It's not sli. And sli would be a little bit more. It would be kedei netila. Unless, of course, you go into something called shomen, or unless you go even further and adapt the chumrah of the Ramah. So we'll take it step by step. Right now, we don't know anything about shomen. We don't know anything about piapua. We know because we learned it in Taaruvot. We learned it in Basar v'Cholov. So we are familiar with the concept. Remember piapua? We somewhat know that there's a difference between shomen and kochush, fatty versus lean. I guess kochush would you translate lean in English, yeah? But right now, imagine you're starting from scratch. As many people who learn Hilchos Yore Deah Siman Aleph, especially, begin with Melicha, then go on to Basar v'Cholov and Taaruvot. So this is the first time they're encountering this concept. They won't see it in Shechita so much and in Treifas. They're going to go to Melicha and they say, what's happening? So they know that Meliach Keroteach, it does have some abilities. Melicha is powerful stuff. It's not like kovush, which we know later on can be more of an issue. It's definitely not bishul, but it's a problem. So if they're touching and the two are salted, or even if just the treifa one is salting, it's also kedei kliba. She'af al pi she'eno bolea midama treifa. Even though the kosher meat is not being bolea midama treifa, bolas mitzira. What is it saying here? Very interesting idea. This is interesting. Even though it's not boilea midam hatreifa. Okay. What am I concerned about here? I have treif meat. What does the treif meat have? It has dam. It has tzir, which is like dam. But is it not? Is it exactly like dam? No, it may be like dam legabe the isur. The two of them are also. I can't have dam or tzir of a treif meat. I know that. I can't meat, yeah, but I can't even have the dam. No juices. Nothing is allowed from the treif. Not even the eggs, by the way, of the treif chicken. Not even the milk of a treif cow. If you recall.
That's a big problem.
Yeah, the big problem. Yeah. Okay, but here we have a real problem. The dam of a real treifa in front of us. So he's telling us, you know what? Now, it's not being boleh midama treifa, but it is bolas mitzira. In other words, because of the saltiness here, they're touching, the contact here, the kosher meat, whether it's salty or not, will be bolea a klipa of the treifa meat. What will it be bolea? The tzir. Well, so why not the dam? Okay, so what do we know so far? I would think, let's assume the two are salty. It makes it easier. The two are salty. I know klal. called Aidi de Torid. Lemiflat lo bola. Right? We said either the two are salty or the treif is salty. Okay, let's say the two are salty. So if the two are salty, the kosher one is also giving off. And what did we learn about that? Everybody agrees. I did the Torah lemiflat lo bola. We salt a lot of meat together on top of each other. It's going to come out. It's mishrik shorik. It's not going to be boleh. And even if you hold this boleh, it comes right back out. I mean, why should it be a problem? Right? Eventually, even if the two are salted, the salt takes everything out. Why does it take it out? Or why does it not allow it to be absorbed? Because I did the Torah lemiflat. So here comes the big chidush. I did the Torah lemiflat is only said legabe dam, not legabe tzir. When afal pi sheino bolea midam atreifa, because I did the Torah lemiflat, it doesn't bolea dam, if it's salty, right? But bolas mitzira, you don't say I did the Torah when tzir comes in. Tzir falls on top of the meat, it's going to be bolea.
Even though it's giving off blood, or
even if it's giving off blood.
I have a whole different hope for this whole thing.
Yeah.
When you're ready,
Yeah. Anyway, let's just finish. Why is it that? By dam we say an additional concept of mishrik shorik. Somehow it's slippery. Dam is slippery, not tzir. Tzir. This is the explanation given, by the way, on this Gemara by Rashi and the Rashba as to why this is so. It's not nobody mentions it over here. I mean, that it's their opinion. That's the shot in the Gemara that one is worse than the other. By dam you say it's slippery, it comes off, mishrik shorik. The tzir, no. The tzir is noach libala. It is easily absorbed, just seeps in, and you don't say that. Yeah.
With respect to being salted in either case,
Right.
even if treifa was not treifa, there was no trace.
Okay.
If the kosher one, that in this kosher, would be absorbing from the blood of the other piece, regardless if treifa or not, we have a problem. So the problem that we have with kosher piece absorbing blood of the other piece has nothing to do with or not, because absorbing the blood of the other piece being salted, we had the problem all along that we don't want that.
Right, that's correct, yeah.
So what we're dealing with here is a special case that only occurs by it. What would be the special case that only occurs by the treifa? Because if both of them are kosher, once we've taken care of the blood and we don't have a problem with absorption of blood, so if they absorb the tzir, then hakasha, what's the problem?
Exactly.
If both of them are kosher.
Right.
So I'm not so sure. I was wondering whether it would have commented on it. No, this hasn't. The reason why we're not concerned here with the blood, but with tzir davka, is because we're discussing a very special case of the treifa. The blood case of the treifa is part of the general case of blood. It doesn't need to be a treifa to be a problem. So that's why we're not taking into consideration what happens if the kosher piece.
Oh, that's what.
The blood
But that's what the
because
mechaber.
it would be the exact same problem.
Yeah, but that's what
with
mechaber.
this treifa now.
So mechaber is saying that's exactly what mechaber is saying. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but mechaber in his wording of the halacha says she'afal pi she'eino boleh midam atreifa, and for whatever reason, it's not. Don't worry about that. It's just not. It's still we still have another problem here. That's called
Right.
tzir.
Even if it's not
Right.
small.
So yeah, I think the mechaber pretty much says that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, but what happens? Aval imak sheira melucha v'treifa tfeila. What happens if the kosher one is the one that's salty, and there's some treif meat next to it? They're not going to salt it. They know it's treif, but they left it close by, touching. So here you have a situation where the sheira is the one that's salty. Muteres behadocha v'loi klipa. Just like meat and cheese that are touching. Well, no big deal. You may get away with it sometimes with just hadocha with rinsing. The mechaber adds, bein nosang kshera lemala. Where did you put the kshera on top? Bein nosno lemata. Where did you put it in the bottom? If the kshera is the one that's salted, no problem. Why? Because the spot where they touch, the kosher salted ones, is not so powerful to make the treif unsalted one salty enough to draw out from it its tzir. If the salty one, if the treif one is salty, then it could bring out its juices. It's going to heat up, it's going to take out juice, it's going to come oozing out. But if the kosher one is the salty one, for it to be strong enough to take out someone else's tzir, no, we don't say that. So hadocha will be sufficient. On that, the Mechaber brings, remember I told you before, v'yesh misha oiser, in this case, benoigim zeh bazeh. They're touching. V'soiver shelo hutru. No, we never allowed it. Even if the kosher one is the one that's salty. When did we allow it? This is the Ran, by the way. When did we allow it? Be'ela be'oimdim, soiver shelo hutru, ela be'oimdim besomu b'kdei sheplita shezeh no gas bezeh. Only when they were standing, let's say, 6 inches apart, and the plita of this one and the plita of this were touching. The juices were touching. Then we're not going to be machmer, just because the juices came into touch. All right, so we're not going to say, it ran from here to there. But when the meats are actually touching, even though the kosher one is the one that's salted, the Ran wants to be machmer. So the Mechaber says, Mechaber doesn't say, the Ramah says, Uchshatreifa maluach v'kosher tofel afilu b'chihai gavna asur. Well, obviously we know that from Taaruvot, when the treifa one is the one that's salty and the kosher one is the one that's tofel, even if they're just a few inches apart and the plitas are touching, it's going to be already a problem. In other words, we're machmir on that, as we learned in Taaruvot, in Kuf Hey. But if the kosher one is the one that's salted, the treif one is not salted, even if they're touching, Mechaber's first opinion, not a problem, hadocha. The Ran says, no, it will be also a problem. Okay, so here we have the two shittas. The kosher one is the salted one. It's not strong enough to take off. Yeah, it's here, yeah. Anyway,
The sear one.
the Ramah in Kuf Hey, when we learn Taaruvot, and he mentions this, Halacha, pretty much the same Halacha, says that in the Hefse Meruba, was lechatchila, we should be choishes like the Ran. In the Hefse Meruba, you can be soymech on the other opinion that it's not a problem if the kosher one is the one that's salted. The question is it only Hefse Meruba or Hefse Me'at? There's a machlokes. Shach says only Hefse Meruba. There's others who say even the Hefse Me'at. You can be soymech on those who hold. If the kosher one was salted and the other ones were not, it's fine. And this could happen, whether it's with fish, whether it's with the meat, but we're going to see that there's a little bit of a difference between the two. The Shach, in discussing the difference between fish, meat, tzir, dam, shrotzim, neveles, treifes, and the like, says like this. There are times, he says, the Shach says here, that there may be a suffix. Let's say you are machmir, right? Let's say we're machmir. For whatever reason, the halacha says you have to be machmir, that's the halacha. They touched, there's a klipa that's required, or more. More in the cases of kochosh and of shaman, for example. Anyway, whatever it is. Sometimes you may have a suffix. Did they touch or did they not touch? Were they salted together or not salted together? You see them in different bins after they're being sorted, perhaps, and being rich. The mashgiach comes and says, wait a minute. Did you salt them together? The guy says, of course not. I believe him. Right? A mashgiach has to be there at the beginning to see what do they do. Right? You have problems with tuna fish and dolphins and other, you're going to grind up the fish. You won't be able to know any dolphins these days. What do you do when you do? You grind everything together. Hashgacha is very important in certain processes from the very, very beginning. I just saw an interview, OU site. I have a video on how they describe the process of kashrus, how they were saying that some ingredients are kosher by themselves, but at the point of origin, when they prepared it, there was some contact with toma tissue, treif tissue. In other words, there were several steps on how this particular ingredient that they use in a drink, soda drink or something else, what it went through, and when you see the ingredient is a completely kosher ingredient. Yeah, but what are its early the early steps of that ingredient? Where was it? Was it bathed in something? So I have a food item, I have a drink or whatever, and I read the ingredients, and they're kosher ingredients. Yeah, but that particular ingredient, if you knew the original step involved, I forget what they said, was bathing it or preparing it or growing it on a, what did they say? Animal tissue, I think it was. They allowed it to metabolize or whatever, I don't know which words, on animal tissue. So obviously, it rendered the whole thing questionable. But had you not seen that step, you would not know. And they're not going to write it, this ingredient, we process it in this way. So hashgacha is very important from the first step. Matzah shmura, same thing. What makes matzah shmura, and the people are so machmir, is because from the very, very beginning, we're concerned that no water should come in contact with it. Even though it's a chumrah, but, it's a good reason. When it's harvested, not when it's growing. Right, then there's no issue. But only once the point of harvest, mishasak tzira, right? Even though the real chumrah is later on, once you've ground it. No, it's a chumrah, and it's a good chumrah. A lot of Jews are careful to have matzah shmura. For Pesach, we're always machmir. So, you need hashgacha from the very first step, and you should see how they dress, and make sure that there's no moisture around, and everything. They take all the precautions they can, not to make sure. Even on the truck where they're going to load it, has to be dry. Everything has to be dry. The weather has to be good, of course. So here, the Shach says, you may have a situation where a suffix arises. What do? So the Shach says, if the suffix is if nivla tzir tome in a tohar, or tzir treifa in the vela, in shrotzim, these are all osur min Torah. These, whatever you want to call them, juices and so forth, coming from something not kosher. Suffix on them, if you have a suffix on them, it would be a suffix that arises from the chumrah. So if you have a situation where you're in doubt if they were salted together and there was brine touching, it could have been. The Ramah says later on, we stay away from this. We're machmir, even though you could say, I don't see them now. And if I don't see them now, I can assume they were salted separately. Especially if I investigate a little bit. So to say that to make up a suffix, I don't need to. But the Ramah in Hilchas Dagim says, we stay away from buying such fish where we see treif and kosher fish that are salted. Maybe they were salted together. So the Rashach says when it comes to tzir, of tome, of treifa, of the vela, shkotzim, rumosim, whatever, we're machmir. But tzir dogim, if it's only fish, he says, well, tzir of dogim is only midrabanan. Even though I just said that the Ramah said we're machmir, but legabe a suffix, if you really want to be technical, it's a suffix derabanan because tzir of dogim is derabanan. The Shach over there, I think in Hilchas Dogim, I think it's there or elsewhere, says that if it's shaman, or I'll look it up in a second. I'll tell you what it is. There's a difference there if it's fatty or not. Let me see if I wrote it down here. No, the Ramah is the one that makes a distinction between shaman and kochush, fatty fish. It says the fatty tzir could be asur min Torah. On that, the Shach says tzir of basar is also the Rabbanon. Basar kosher, I should say. Basar kosher, tzir shenimlach. Basar shenimlach, the tzir that came out from good kosher meat that was salted to take out its blood is only isur the Rabbanon, just like dam shemolchoi. So on that the Shach ends, but this is on Pei Gimel, yeah. That's only on tzir that comes out through Melicha. He says anything that came out through the process of kavush or bishul is also min Torah because the lachluchist, a good part of the fish or of the animal is there. So he says even though we're saying that the tzir that came out of the fish is midrabanan, that's only if it came out through the process called melicha. But once you do kavush, if you're pickling stuff in water over 24 hours, or if you cook the non-kosher fish with the kosher fish, you're in trouble. Because even though something is coming out, but that something is already the lachluchis, that's already or the be'in, whatever you want to call it, the real part of the fish. That's the Chacham did not answer the tzir that comes from non-kosher fish. It's not the real fish. It's not it's not part of the treifas. There's other things too. Because the tzir of meat is partially blood. No. By kosher meat, it's still the Rabbanan. sear of kosher meat that's coming out when you salt the meat to take out the blood, it's just like the salted blood, just like the blood that came out. Once that blood comes out when it's salted, it's a derabanan blood. So if you have so this is good to know, because if you have a suffix begabdat, it's a suffix derabanan. But sear of non-kosher meat is deraisa. It's just like the meat itself. Right. Right, but the sear of dogim, they weren't goizer, they weren't machmir, because it's not the same. It's not.
But the moment machmir,
just like the excrement of certain things, or like I forget. There's other examples in halacha where when something is not food. So this is not. This is also doesn't have any of the mamashas of the fish in it.
But when you say they weren't machmir, that's actually presupposes that it's the rabban. When do we say stuff that they weren't?
They didn't answer. In other words, it's not.
If it's a doraisa, it doesn't depend on whether they.
Well, obviously, they did not. You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's no Kabbalah anywhere that that the sear of fish should be also asur, just like the fish itself. By the meat. Even in meat, in treifa meat. Remember, we learned about bones. Even in bones, so there's a distinction between bone or gida noshe. In begin benois and tam, So there's other reasons why we answer it, of course, but not not the tam necessarily, because you hold tam ki'ikr, but okay, yeah, but it goes so far to have it, you can't have it. But the tam is a separate idea. So the same thing is with bones. The same thing is with dam. They fall under different categories. Some are going to be usher, at least with the rabbanon, right? Like dam that was cooked, right? Dam that was salted. Dam shemolach is midrabanan. It's not.
Dam should be,
right. Dam should. That's why I changed it and cooked is salted. Yeah. But that's already touching on dam sheporash. It's a different concept versus just internal blood, which would not have the same issur. If you were to eat raw meat, you wouldn't be over on any of the blood. Maybe swallowing. So I thought this Shach was interested, because he does tell us that if any sfeikas arise occasionally, you should know what you're dealing with. Are you dealing with a deraisa or are you dealing with a derabanan?
Together.
Right.
And I'm sorry, one who had been previously salted and remained in the vessel, and now I'm salting a second piece of meat with that food. So the Chorah have a problem of the first meat before, right?
And that's the next halacha.
But I'm going to ask you, so if that happened, absorption of the new blood meat that was that would be a derabanan.
Yeah.
The blood that goes from
dam shenimlach is a derabanan dam.
We've been so
we're machmir. We are. Yes, we are.
All the details of why it's usher, what's wrong, does it come out, does it not come out, does the salt take it out, does the salt not take it out, and it was all along just a derabanan.
Many times, yeah, sure.
I mean, this instance.
Yes, sure. Dam shenimlach is a derabanan. Yeah. So that comes to show you how we're careful with even derabanans. There are many such examples. And Hilchos Shabbos is full of it too, right? It's surah derabanan. Yeah.
So the Torah never ushered the blood, but from one piece of it.
Right. No, not with this chorus. No, it wasn't.
Is it love?
Yeah. Sometimes there are some dam that comes under the category of lav, but not chorus.
I mean, by talking about by salting.
No, that's even less. That's not even a deraisa. Yeah. That's already in the derabanan field.
So why would you even suspect that that's sear?
No, because sear is almost like dam.
So why be any worse if the blood is
because so we said because it contains some blood.
I'm saying, but it can't be worse than blood.
No, not worse. No, not if it's from a kosher piece of meat. No, worse. No.
And if the blood itself is derabanan, why should the sear?
The sear is not worse, but the sear of a treifa meat is just like the treifa meat.
No, so then they weren't going to pass.
They weren't what?
It was never a deraisa. Even in the blood, it's not a deraisa. So
yeah, but treifa meat. We're talking about a treifa meat.
Treifa meat is for a different
different reasons altogether. Right.
Anything from that.
Yeah, no, by kosher meat, it's not a problem. It's not worse, like you said, than the dam itself.
The sear can be worse blood, and the blood is derabanan.
It's a derabanan, right? But it's also.
So now it depends on whether Rabbanan ushered the sear as well.
If they did a what?
So then it depends on whether the Rabbanan ushered the sear as well.
They did.
If the blood is the Rabbanan anyway,
then
the question is, do they usher the sear or they don't usher the sear? So we just sear, right?
What they did not?
Yeah, so we just say we had a case where they didn't usher it.
Oh, fish sear. Yeah. Fish sear is something else.
So it depends on the Rabbanan, because it's a Rabbanan to begin with.
Yes, right. The whole thing is a Rabbanan, yeah. Even the dam of the fish The whole thing that comes
The
out.
dam of the meat is wrong.
Yeah. But by fish, it's more lenient because it's only a marisayin. Remember?
Yeah, because that's what we're saying. So which dam of the meat being salted would be worse than the rabbanon?
What do you mean, dam by?
No,
Dam
by
sheporash.
by the salting.
No, it's all midrabanan. Right.
So Maris Ein is not any into than any other rabbanon. Maris Ein is the rabbanon. Blood that salted is the rabbanon. So it should have the same.
No. I wouldn't say ad kedei kach. Marisayin, I would say, is a little bit more lenient. Because remember, there is a chiluk in halacha between something which is the makor. The makor of it is a קיהן דאורייסה. Dam, there is dam that is also da'oraisa. So it's a קיהן דאורייסה. Whereas tzir hadogim is nothing.
But you would have to have a case where
It's only a maris ayin is a different idea. You have to be careful. And if you're drinking almond milk with your steak, you just put some almonds around the jar, so to eliminate the problems.
So that's how you can eliminate it.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that it's more lenient.
There's a way to overcome it.
The way the Rabbanan
Right.
goes are they also
Exactly. All right. So Sif Dalet.
Now, if you're saying Mars Ein legabe de Oraisa, then of course the Mars Ein is far more lenient than the Oraisa.
Yes,
The Oraisa is Mars Ein is not.
Yeah. In Sif Dalet, and hey, what you have is 3 Yesoidas in Hilchas Melicha, which we are familiar with, and I think it's pretty much self-explanatory. It's not so complicated. You have like this. You have the first Yesoid that a davar shaman is mefapeh bekuloi. Anything that is fatty travels through the piece. The second Yesoid is that shaman is mefatem esakochush. We're going to see that something which is fatty fattens up even that which is lean. And the third Yesoid in Hilchas Melicha that we're familiar with is that tato govar. The one that's in the bottom has more strength than the one on the top. So these 3 Yesoidas are found pretty much in Sif Daled. Okay, and so I'm just going to go quickly through it. I mean, it's very easy. That which we said, that 2 pieces of meat, one is kosher, one is treif, are next to each other. They're both salted, or the treif one is salted. That it's also kedei klipa. That's only keshestein chusha, is the Mechaber says, when they both are lean. If one of them, any one of them, he says apparently, is fat, and the fat one is the kosher one. The isur will go, not isur balua, remember, because that's a whole different idea. The isur from the treif will go into the kosher piece of meat. So he already makes a distinction which is the first Yesoid, that there's a difference between Shmeina and Chusha, and he tells us the second Yesoid that Shmeina can be mefatem the kochush. If the Shmeina is the one if the kosher is the one that's fat, it can be mefatem the treif, and then take out the Isser, the kuloi. Now he says, but that's on condition. How could that work? Im hoisa treif hamelucha lemata. Only if the salted treifa was at the bottom. The tatagavar. So you have a fatty kosher piece of meat, a lean treif meat that's salted. It will travel. It will be mefapea. It will be mefatem first of all. Then it will be mefapea, on condition the tatagavar that the treifa one is at the bottom.
Oh, actually, the condition here at the bottom.
Yes, the salted treif is at the bottom.
As long as the salt one is at the bottom,
yes,
the combination would be salted.
Yeah, but it would make a difference. It wouldn't work that way much, because if the salted is the kosher one.
Yes, and it's fatty. We were talking about the case where the treif one.
Yeah, maybe you're right. In this case, it would work the same, because we said pitum works and be mefapea, right? So if the one that's in the bottom is mefatem, the one that's on the top, then if it's salty, if it alone is salty.
So the din of the combination should be.
It alone is salty. Do we say tato govern? One second. I'm not pretty sure about that one, because the Mechaber started off saying that the tray, either the treifa is maluach or the 2 are maluach. If the kosher is maluach and the treifa is tofel, it's not a problem. One second. אפילו בחתיכת הטרייפה כחושו בחתיכת כשיר שמנה, מפפס האיסור בכולו.
So the trephon is salted and on the...
That's only if the treifa is the salted one in the bottom. In other words, he puts it together. It has to be the treifa one, yeah. Because otherwise the salted one has koyach to send off its ingredient into the other one, but not to absorb. Okay.
What does the
Yeah.
fattiness accomplish?
Fattiness accomplishes that it's mefapea.
But if the trephon is the one being sold, do I need fattiness in order to go back to the...
No. It will be also regardless. The question is, the Mechaber says that, when you have something shaman, it's mefapea bekulo. So we have 3 yisoides here, which we saw in the Taaruvot and Basar b'cholam. Yisoid number 1, shaman is mefatem. Shaman is it's mefapea bekuloi, not just kedi klipa. And number 3, you have tatar gover, the concept of tatar gover. So here it would work if the salty one was the treif one at the bottom, even though the one that was fatty was the kosher one. These are pretty much the 3 yisoides in Sif Dalet. I think we can wait with Sif Hey for next week. See, I'll just tell you what it's about. It's a very interesting halacha, but we'll go over it next week again. In Sif Hey, what you have is like this. The Mechaber says a very interesting. Ilan began to mention it. There is an opinion that holds that if you had meat salted for a while, all the blood came out, but you left it there for a while, too long. What happens at some point, some say, is that any dam that may be on the surface or in the salt will go back inside. It says, be careful with this meat. After all the tziras come out, here Mechaber proposes 12 hours. There's different shittas on this. It says if you don't leave it more than 12 hours sitting out there, first of all, without refrigeration, I can't imagine somebody would take the chance. But anyway, maybe they live in Siberia, so. When they didn't have refrigerators, my grandmother would put the food out in the window in Yerushalayim. My father-in-law of Shalom said that in Lithuania, they actually used to make a big hole in the ground, like a big basement, a big cellar, and that's where they would store things, and they would put hay or straw on certain things that they wanted to preserve for a longer time. It was cooler in the bottom, especially if they look for all kinds of ways to maintain food fresh. So he says there are some who say, and who's that some? Tur, B'Shem Rashba, and others, that if you don't leave it to stay too long, more than 12 hours after all the dam and tzir came out, if it will reabsorb the lachluchis blood that's on it, and that's in the salt. Actually, I was just thinking about it. It won't spoil because it is salted. Maybe, like they make, salamis. You salt it, you dry it so much that it's okay. Some allow it. Some allow you to leave it for a while, the rosh. Be concerned with the opinion that says it's osir, but b'diavad it's mutter. I mean, the rosh, the ones who hold it's okay, is because he holds salt only has the koach to take out blood, not to bring it back in. So according to the rosh, it's never going to be a problem. Yeah. The Rash, but the Ran, the Shem Rabbeinu Yonah, are the ones that are concerned that it's going to reabsorb any dam on the surface or any dam that's on the melech itself. And then you don't have Aidi de Torah anymore after everything is out. So the Shuchan Aruch basically says, Lechatchila, be concerned about it, but the ever it's not asur. This din, by the way, is similar, and really depends on if the Beis Yosef talks about this din a little bit more in detail. It's similar to the din of Ma'aser Rashi that we had in Siman Samach Tes. Remember, that's the case where you had meat that was already salted or was left in a klisha eino menukav after the fact that it was, and a little bit of sear built up at the bottom. And over there, so Rashi was saying there that the dam, any dam that's left over in the salt, was nisyabesh already. And there's also the opinion that the melach does not have any more koyach after it did what it did to reabsorb any blood. And whatever's still coming out that accumulated is not dam, it's just sear. So therefore I think Rashi said that it was mutter over there. The only reason there's some who are machmir is because some sear nevertheless accumulated. So there, lechora, we see from what's the question? Over there we see it's okay. I have to check if the Beis Yosef mentions that or if the other Meforshim here explain it. They say, I think it's a Shach actually, who says over here that this case is a little bit different. Let me see here. No. It's just a Ramah. The Ramah was more machmir there because over there was a cliche no menukov. It's sitting in its ear versus over here where everything is free flowing. Da mishrik shorik, and it's not such a problem, even though there's no more tzir left inside. Why are we more makel here? Because here you can be mitzaref Rashi svara that there's no more koch left in the salt, or that whatever comes out is mohil and it's not tzir. Whereas over there it's actually sitting in a kli. That's why over there the Ramah was machmir.
Who's learning by Master Rashi? Tzir will go back.
Yeah, especially according to those that hold that the tzir has a little bit of blood in it. Yeah. Right, so over there it's sitting in a cliche no menukov, there's more of a reason to be machmir there than over here where things are flowing anyway. So you can mitzaref Rashi's hezber that it's not dam, it's nothing. Plus, melach has no koach to be mavliya, which is also the rosh. Yeah, so that's the Shach. The Shach says, yeah, we're going to see that next time. The Shach says that there's a difference between here and there. Over here, there's no kli menukov, over there is a kli menukov. There is a situation where, for example, you have meat that was completely salted and you have other meat that's just being salted, and blood is coming down on it. So we're going to see that involved that we're not makel on there. You better get it out of the way if you're finished with it. But here, the piece by itself, no other pieces of meat. So what are you going to say? The blood that's on the surface is going to be reabsorbed? We could be mitzaref to that, the das of Rashi, of Meiser Rashi, that the koach, the dam either was nisyabish, it's no longer there, or the melach posach koach hamelach, or simply, it's not absorbed. It's completely not absorbed, like the Rosh says, basically. Salt does not have the koach to absorb it, only to take it out. However, in the other case in Sivov, it's going to be more chomerdik because, here you have this piece of meat that's already been salted. It has no tzir coming out. It's absorbing now. That's going to be absorbing real blood. Yeah. And the tzir is salty and it's absorbing real blood. It's a little bit different as opposed to if it's sitting by itself. Anyway, so the Mechaber says, lechatchila, don't leave it too long, but the ever it's okay. All right, we'll stop here.